My wife spent all her time with her best friend and told me, I want him to feel loved and know he's not alone. I want you to let me sleep with him. So I coldly divorced her and had my friend beat him up before enjoying my single life. My name is Daniel, and my story, the one I like to tell, begins in high school. I was not a guy who stood out, just one more in the crowd, with a pretty normal life. My family was one of those that sit down to dinner together every night, where problems were talked about and resolved. I had a solid group of friends, good grades, and a path that seemed quite clear in front of me. All that changed the day I saw her for the first time. It was a Tuesday, I think, in the main hallway of the school. I was with my two best friends, Mateo and Pablo, on the way to the cafeteria. Suddenly, my gaze stopped on a girl who was walking alone. She had light brown hair, almost golden under the sunlight coming through the windows, and large, expressive eyes that seemed to hold a world within them. Her figure was slender, and her walk, though graceful, had something distant about it, as if she were absorbed in her own thoughts. Who is she? I asked Mateo, nudging him. I have never seen her around here. Mateo followed my gaze and let out a small snort. Ah, she is Clara. She is new this year. She arrived a few months ago. And no, you had not seen her because she does not mix much. She is a bit of a loner. Pablo, always with his joking tone, added, a loner? I would rather say she is a ghost. She appears and disappears. You only see her in the library or in the hallways. Always with a book. My curiosity was piqued. She was undeniably beautiful, with a beauty that made you turn your head. I immediately thought, a girl that pretty must have a boyfriend. The idea discouraged me a bit, but I could not help but keep watching her until she was out of sight. That afternoon, during basketball practice, the conversation came up again. I could not stop thinking about her. Her mystery intrigued me more than her beauty. Hey, seriously, why do you guys say she is like that? I asked Mateo and Pablo as we tied our shoelaces. Mateo sat down next to me on the bench, his voice dropping to a whisper. Daniel, look, there are rumors, and many of them are not very nice. They say her family is a total disaster, that her parents, well, that they are not in a condition to take care of her. That is why she lives with an uncle, I think. Her parents? What is wrong with them? I insisted, feeling a knot in my stomach. Pablo, who was stretching his legs, joined the conversation in a more serious tone. It is said that the dad has serious problems with alcohol, and the mom, that she is not mentally well. That is why the uncle took charge of her, and, of course, that has affected her a lot. They say she has many traumas, that she is emotionally unstable. That is why she does not trust anyone, and people, well, prefer to keep their distance. Mateo gave me a pat on the shoulder. Daniel, I am telling you this as your friend. It is better if you do not get involved there. There are many girls in the school. A relationship cannot start with the idea that you are going to save the other person. It is not healthy for you, and, for sure, it is not healthy for her either. His words should have pushed me away. Logic dictated that I follow his advice and look for someone else, someone normal, like me. But in my mind, I could not ignore what they had told me. I did not see a girl with problems. I saw a lonely and hurt girl. And I simply could not, stand by idly. My life had been so easy, so full of love and support, that in some way I felt it was my duty to help someone who had not had the same luck. My savior instinct was activated, and it was stronger than any warning, so I ignored their advice. The next time I saw her, she was in the library, sitting at a table in the back, completely absorbed in a book on philosophy. I approached with my heart beating hard. Can I sit here? I asked, pointing to the empty chair in front of her. She looked up, surprised. Her eyes, an intense honey color, looked at me with a mixture of caution and curiosity. Yes, of course, she replied in a voice so soft I could barely hear it. Our first conversation was awkward. We talked about the book she was reading, which was about existentialism, a topic that was completely over my head. Then we moved on to music and art, topics in which she moved with a passion that captivated me. I realized that she was incredibly intelligent and that, behind that facade of a lonely girl, there was a fascinating world. As the days turned into weeks, her initial caution began to fade. Little by little, with long pauses and her gaze lost on some distant point, she told me about her life. She told me about her parents, about how her uncle had taken charge of her when things became unbearable. She told me about the emptiness she felt, about the feeling that, despite everything, she was not good enough for anyone. I, who came from a loving and functional home, felt like a stranger in her universe. My problems, like which university to choose or what to do on the weekend, were so small next to hers. But what I did understand was the pain in her eyes, and my instinct for protection, for being a savior, grew stronger. Your parents love you in their own way, Clara, I told her one day as we walked through the park, holding her hand. And you are a wonderful, brilliant person with a huge heart. It is not your fault what happened. She looked at me with eyes full of tears, and, for the first time, I saw a small, sincere smile on her face. A smile that took my breath away. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for being here. It means a lot to me. And I, at that moment, knew that I had fallen in love not only with her beauty, but with her vulnerability, with her silent strength. And despite what my friends had said, I was willing to risk everything for her. Our relationship became deeper. We spent hours talking, laughing, and sometimes simply in silence, enjoying each other's company. She was my confidant and I, her rock. Despite her emotional ups and downs, which sometimes left me confused and exhausted, I was always there for her. I accompanied her to her appointments with the psychologist her uncle had found for her. I comforted her when she felt down, and I encouraged her when she felt hopeless. By the end of high school, our friendship had turned into a deep love. We became a couple, and I felt like the luckiest man in the world. But deep down I knew that the road ahead would not be easy. I knew that my role as a savior was not over and that, in a way, it was just beginning. Our relationship blossomed in high school. We became inseparable, and I felt like the luckiest man in the world. Of course, our circle of friends was large and fraternal. Mateo and Pablo, my lifelong friends, became close to Clara, and she, in turn, had her own circle of friends, among whom one figure stood out who became a constant in our lives, Leo. Leo was her best friend. They had known each other since childhood, and their friendship was so deep that it sometimes made me feel a little insecure. Leo was an independent guy, very much in his own world, and many times Clara would go running to be with him if he needed her, no matter what we were doing. At first it bothered me a little, I admit. I would tell her that it was a little uncomfortable for me, and she, with the sweetness that characterized her, would tell me that I had nothing to worry about. He is like my brother, Daniel. He is just my best friend, and he needs me. You are my boyfriend. It is different, she would explain. I, who loved her and trusted her, decided to drop the subject. Besides, for my peace of mind, Leo had met a girl with whom he started a very serious and long relationship. This made his calls to Clara less frequent, and my insecurities dissipated. Life went on, and my relationship with Clara became more stable and happy. After college, we got married. The wedding was beautiful, full of friends and family. It seemed like everything was falling into place. Mateo, Pablo, and the other friends in our circle were also growing up, getting married, and starting their own families. I, who had always dreamed of having my own family, was happy that Clara and I were on that path. Everything was stability and promises, but life, as always, has its own plans. After a few years of marriage, Leo's relationship, the one he had with his lifelong girlfriend, ended. It was a tough blow for him. Not only was he abandoned, but he also lost his job in the same month. The situation plunged him into a deep depression, and Clara, with the empathy that had always characterized her, tried to help him. At first, I tried to be understanding. Leo was her best friend, and it was normal for her to want to be there for him. However, her empathy became an obsession. She was much more concerned about him than about me. Her calls were constant, her text messages would not stop ringing, and her outings to be with him, so he would not feel lonely, became a routine. I started to feel neglected. Our romantic dinners turned into dinners with Clara's phone in her hand, waiting for a message from Leo. Our movie nights together became nights where she would explain to me that she did not feel well because her best friend was suffering. I felt alone in my own house, and I started to feel like the second course in my own marriage. One night, when I tried to talk to her about how I felt, the situation became tense. Clara, my love, I know Leo is going through a difficult time, but I feel like you are neglecting me. We do not have time for ourselves anymore. I feel like my well-being does not matter to you. I told her in the calmest voice I could manage. She looked at me with an expression of disbelief and anger. Really, Daniel? I cannot believe you are saying this to me. At such a difficult time for my best friend, you want to be the center of attention? You are selfish. Her words hurt me. I, who had been understanding, who had tried to be empathetic with the situation, felt attacked. I told her it was not selfishness, that it was just a need to feel loved and heard in my own marriage. But she did not listen to me. The argument dragged on and ended with her telling me that I was insensitive and that I could not understand her best friend's pain. The situation dragged on for months. Leo, although I did not see him very often, from what Clara told me, was still depressed. And she, for her part, continued to be his lifesaver. My patience began to run out and frustration became a constant in my life. I just wanted to have my normal married life back. I wanted to get my wife back. A few months passed. For me, the situation with Leo and Clara was starting to improve. He, according to what my wife told me, was coming out of his state of depression. He had already started looking for a job and was feeling a little better emotionally. I, naively, thought it was time to get back to normal. I started planning a romantic dinner for Clara and me, a little weekend getaway to reconnect. I wanted to have my wife back, the woman I had sworn to love and care for in my own marriage. One day, when I got home from work, I found her sitting on the sofa, waiting for me. The house was unusually silent, and she had a serious expression on her face. For a second, my heart sped up. I thought she had a surprise for me. "Sit down, Daniel. We need to talk," she told me in a tone of voice I did not recognize. I sat down next to her, my mind full of happy scenarios. "Of course, my love. What is wrong? Are you okay?" She took a breath and looked me straight in the eyes. "Daniel, these have been very difficult months for Leo and also for me, seeing him like this. But I do not want him to stay depressed. I want him to be happy again." I looked at her, not understanding where she was going. "Of course, my love, that sounds good. And what do you plan to do?" She stood up, took a few steps around the living room, and stopped in front of me. "I have been thinking a lot about how to help him, and I came up with an idea, one that I think will make him feel better, that will lift his spirits, and I want you to support me in this." My heart began to beat hard. "Clara, you are scaring me. What is it that you want to do?" She came closer and knelt in front of me, taking my hands. "I want him to feel loved, to know that he is not alone. I want you to let me have relations with him." I froze. The blood rushed to my head. I stared at her, thinking it was a very bad joke. I started to laugh with a nervous, humorless laugh. "What are you saying, Clara? It is a joke," but she did not laugh. Her expression remained serious. "It is not a joke, Daniel. I am being serious. He is very depressed. I feel that only I can help him. He needs me." I stopped laughing abruptly. The laughter turned to anger. I pulled my hands away from hers, got up from the sofa, and started pacing the living room, feeling an immense rage. "What? Have relations with him so he feels better? Clara, are you listening to yourself? Are you asking me for permission to sleep with your best friend so he will not be depressed? What kind of excuse is that? What kind of person does that?" She, seeing me so angry, stood up and started yelling at me. "Do not talk to me like that, Daniel. You are so thoughtless. You cannot understand that at such a difficult time for my best friend, I cannot be the center of your life. You need to understand that he needs me more than you do now." Her screams hurt me. The rage mixed with disbelief. I realized that she was not only crazy, but she was manipulating me. I stood in front of her and looked into her eyes. "If you ever do that, Clara, if you ever sleep with him, I will divorce you immediately. And not only that, I will sue you for adultery and take every last penny from you. I will leave you on the street." She froze. Her eyes widened in panic and her expression became submissive. "Daniel, do not say that. It is not that big of a deal. I will not do it. Do not say that. Of course it is that big of a deal, Clara. Marriage is based on trust. And you, with this idea, have broken mine." She started to cry, to beg for my forgiveness, to tell me it was just a silly idea, that she was not going to do it. I listened to her, but deep down, my heart was no longer convinced. That night, I slept on the living room sofa. My mind kept turning the situation over and over. Disbelief, rage, pain. Everything swirled together in a whirlwind of emotions. And in the midst of that chaos, an idea came to my mind, an idea of distrust, of paranoia, but one that seemed to be the only way to know the truth. The next day, I made a decision. I left the house, went to a store, and bought some very small, hidden cameras. I installed them in several strategic places in the house, in the living room, in the kitchen, in the guest room. I felt that my marriage was falling apart, but I had to be sure. I had to know. After installing the cameras, a couple of tense days passed. The relationship with Clara was cold, distant, but she made an effort to act as if everything were normal. I, for my part, did the same, trying not to show my distrust. I had to be as convincing as possible for my plan to work. So one day I sat down with her and said, "Clara, my boss just gave me some news. I have to go on a very important work trip. It is for 3 days. We are going fishing at a cabin. But it is a very important trip because my boss wants to see how I handle myself in a situation outside of work." She looked at me and her expression lit up with a smile that seemed completely fake to me. "Oh, Daniel, that is great. You are going to do wonderfully. I will catch up on some things while you are gone." I hugged her, faking a smile, and told her I loved her. Then I left. In reality, I was not going on a work trip. I was going fishing with Mateo and Pablo, my lifelong friends. I wanted to know if my wife would be capable of betraying me behind my back. When I got to the cabin, I sat down with my friends and told them my plan. They listened to me attentively, with a mixture of surprise and concern. "I cannot believe it, Daniel. It is crazy," Mateo said in a low voice. "Wait, do you really think Clara would do that?" asked Pablo, his face full of disbelief. "I do not know, guys. That is why I did it, to be sure. But if she does it, I want to have the evidence." They told me they would support me no matter what happened. They told me they sincerely hoped I was wrong, and I, deep down, hoped so too. The idea that my wife, the woman I loved, was cheating on me broke my heart. The trip went on as normal. We fished, laughed, and caught up on our lives, but my mind was not completely on the trip. On the second day, I could not take it anymore. I excused myself from my friends, went to my room, took out my laptop, and checked the cameras. When I logged in, my heart started to pound. The first camera I checked was the one in the living room. On the screen, I saw Clara sitting on the sofa, waiting. After a while, the door opened and Leo came in. My stomach clenched. Leo looked more down than usual, with a lost look in his eyes. Clara hugged him, comforted him, and he burst into tears in her arms. "I do not know what to do, Clara. I do not know what to do." I heard Leo's voice full of pain. "Leo, calm down. Everything is going to be okay. I am here for you. I will always be here for you," she said, stroking his hair. I felt a little relieved. Maybe I had been wrong. Maybe she was just being a good friend. But my relief vanished as quickly as it had come. She, still hugging him, looked into his eyes and then kissed him. It was a long, deep kiss that left no room for doubt. At that moment, my heart broke into a million pieces. But the image on the screen did not end there. After that kiss, she whispered something in his ear and he nodded. They got up and went to the room I shared with Clara. The hallway camera recorded them, and the camera I had installed inside the room, in a very well-hidden place, recorded the rest. I was in disbelief, but at the same time, I felt that my suspicion had been confirmed. I had not gone crazy. She had betrayed me. I turned off the laptop and sat in silence, processing what I had seen. At that moment, I did not feel rage, just an immense emptiness. But then the rage took over me. I was not going to stand by idly. I was not going to let her humiliate me like that. I took out my phone and, with trembling hands, called my lawyer, Ricardo. "Ricardo, it is Daniel. I need you to prepare some divorce documents. And I need them for tomorrow." "Daniel, what are you saying? What happened?" he asked me, his voice full of confusion. "Ricardo, my wife cheated on me and I have all the proof. I have it on a video. I will send it to you by email, but I need them for tomorrow. I do not want a trial, I want a settlement. A settlement where she gets the bare minimum. And I need you to have them ready for when I get home." "Understood, Daniel. Do not worry, you will have everything ready." With my plan in motion, I rejoined my friends. I continued the fishing trip as if nothing had happened. Inside, the rage had turned into an icy fire. I was not going to show my pain. I was going to be a businessman, and she, for her part, was going to pay for her betrayal. The fishing trip ended. The icy fire of rage kept me on my feet during the journey back home. I did not say anything to my friends. I did not want them to see the pain in my eyes. The lawyer, Ricardo had sent me the documents. They were ready. All I needed was a little courage, a little strength to face what awaited me at home. And although my heart was pounding, reason told me I had to be strong. When I got to the city, I stopped by Ricardo's office and picked up the divorce papers. As I opened the envelope, the weight of the document felt like a tombstone on my chest. Inside was a copy of the lawsuit and the divorce agreement. The lawsuit was for adultery, and the agreement, as I had asked Ricardo, left Clara with the bare minimum. It was a fair deal, considering the betrayal, but a deal that would leave her with nothing. And for the first time, I felt no remorse, only justice. I arrived home. I saw her standing in the entrance with a radiant smile. "Daniel, my love, it is so good that you are back." She ran to me and gave me a big hug. The hug felt fake, empty. I pulled away from her with a serious expression on my face. "Daniel, what is wrong? Did you have a bad time at work?" I said nothing. I just took the envelope out of my briefcase and handed it to her. She took it with a confused expression. "Daniel, what is this?" "Open it," I said, and I sat on the sofa without looking at her. She, with the envelope in her hand, began to open it slowly. I read the expression on her face, the change from confusion to fear and then to panic. She dropped the envelope, sat down next to me, and looked at me with tearful eyes. "Daniel, is this not? It is the divorce, Clara." She froze. Tears began to fall down her face. "No, Daniel, you cannot do this to me." "Why?" "You know why, Clara. You have 1 week to sign the papers. If you do not, we are going to court, and it will not be pleasant for you at all." She started to cry, to beg me. "No, Daniel, please. I swear it was a mistake. It was just a moment of weakness. It was for him, because he was very depressed. And I already told you we can fix it. I give you a free pass to do whatever you want. Just please do not leave me. You are the love of my life." I listened to her, but her words no longer had power over me. I only saw a desperate woman, a liar, trying to save her own skin. I laughed a humorless laugh and looked her in the eyes. "I told you explicitly that if you ever cheated on me, I would divorce you. I told you that if you slept with him, I would leave you on the street. And you know what? You did it. And I do not care if it was for him, for the depression, or for any other cheap excuse you can come up with. You did it, and now you are going to pay for it." She got on her knees, crying, begging. "No, Daniel, please, do not do this to me. Clara, listen carefully. I am going to pack a few things. You are going to read the agreement, and you are going to sign it. And if you do not, we will go to court, and, with the evidence I have, I will take every last cent from you. On the other hand, in this agreement, I am giving you a little money, enough for you to get by on your own. But I am warning you, if you do not sign it, I will not give you anything." I packed some of my things from my room, looked at her one last time, and left. She, still on the floor, shouted at me, "Daniel, do not leave me. Do not leave me." But I did not stop. I left the house and went to a hotel. I checked in, and, for the first time in years, I felt free. That night I received a call. The number was unknown. I hesitated, but I answered. "Hello, Daniel. It is me, Leo." My blood boiled. I remained silent, listening to the voice of that man, the man who had ruined my marriage. "I know you are angry and I understand, but I want you to know that what happened was my fault. I manipulated her. Shut up," I shouted, interrupting him. "Do not you dare speak. You are a loser. You have never achieved anything in life. And you know what? You can have her. I do not want a cheating woman. Daniel, I just wanted to. I told you to shut up. I am warning you, Leo. If you call me again, if you look for me again, I swear I will go to your house and I will beat you up, and I do not care if you end up in the hospital. Do you hear me? Shut up and do not call me again." I hung up and blocked him. The rage consumed me, but then the rage transformed into something else, into something dark, into a malicious idea. The plan in my head began to take shape, dark and malicious. The anger over the betrayal was not enough. I wanted Leo to pay in a way that the law could not touch. That is why I decided to turn to a friend, Marcos. He had been in the military and now worked as a bouncer at a nightclub. His specialty was solving problems, and not in a very conventional way. I called him with the calmest voice I could manage, despite the hurricane I felt inside. "Marcos, it is Daniel. How are you, Daniel? It is good to hear from you, old man." "I am fine, a little busy with work, but fine. And how are you?" To be honest, not so good. I need a favor, Marcos. And it is a delicate favor. I told him the situation. I told him about Clara, about Leo, about the betrayal, and about the rage I felt. I explained that I wanted to teach him a lesson he would not forget. I want them to give him a beating, Marcos. I want them to hit him in a way that it looks like he asked for it, that it does not look like it was a planned attack. And I want them, if possible, to record it. And I will pay you very well for the job. Marcos listened to me attentively, without interrupting. When I finished, he asked, "Who is the guy? Where can I find him?" I gave him all the information. I gave him Leo's name, his home address, the bars and nightclubs he frequented. I told him he was a loser, that he had no one to defend him. And Marcos, in a calm and confident voice, told me, "Do not worry, Daniel. The job is as good as done. I will let you know when we have resolved it." Several days passed. Clara tried to contact me several times. She sent me text messages, called me from unknown numbers, left me voicemails in which she begged me to come back, to forgive her. But I no longer felt anything. Her words no longer had power over me. One afternoon, while I was at the hotel, I received a notification from my lawyer, Ricardo. There was a meeting with Clara's lawyers to negotiate the terms of the divorce. I accepted the meeting. I wanted to end this once and for all. I met Ricardo in his office, and we went to a private room. There were Clara and her lawyer. She looked at me with tearful eyes, and I looked at her with an indifference that made her feel more pain than 1,000 screams. "Daniel, please, can we not talk?" she pleaded. "There is nothing to talk about, Clara. The papers are ready. You just have to sign." Clara's lawyer tried to intercede. "Sir, do you not think this is a bit excessive?" But Ricardo, my lawyer, stopped her immediately. "My client has proof of adultery. If you want to go to court, I am sure it will not go well for you. The best you can do is sign the agreement." The meeting lasted a couple of hours. Clara, who was still crying, tried to convince her lawyer that she could do something, but she, who had seen the evidence, told her it was better to sign the agreement. In the end, after a long and painful discussion, she signed. The divorce was finalized. We left the meeting. Ricardo shook my hand. "You did it, Daniel. You are a free man." I, who felt empty, just thanked him. As I was walking away from the office, I heard Clara's voice. "Daniel, wait." I stopped. She caught up to me with her face bathed in tears. "I just want you to know that I will always love you, that you were the love of my life, and that I regret what I did." "That is fine, Clara, but do not ever contact me again." I left her standing in the middle of the street, crying. I got in the car and left. I went to the hotel, and there, in the solitude of my room, I felt at peace. The divorce, finally, was a reality. But my revenge was not yet over. That night I received a call. It was from Marcos. "You are going to like what I am about to send you, Daniel." A few minutes later, I received several videos in my email. The videos showed Leo in a bar and 3 men, one of them Marcos, setting up a situation where he pushed them. Then you could see how they gave him a brutal beating. I did not feel bad. I felt a strange satisfaction, and, for the first time in a long time, I laughed. The revenge, at last, was over. With the revenge consummated and the divorce finalized, my life entered a new phase. The resentment and rage that had consumed me for months began to dissipate. The first few days in the hotel were of deep reflection. I felt empty, but also at peace. It was a kind of peace I had not felt in a long time, a peace that came from freedom. A week after the divorce, I went back to the house. The house that was once our home now felt like an empty shell. Clara had packed her things and left. The memories, however, remained in every corner. The living room where we had seen her for the first time, the garden where we had kissed, the kitchen where we had planned our future. Everything felt unreal, as if it had been someone else's life. I did not feel capable of continuing to live there, so I decided to put the house up for sale. The selling process was quick. With the money I got, I bought a smaller apartment in another neighborhood, far from my memories, far from my old life. And in that apartment, I began to rebuild myself. I started to get back to my routine. I went to the gym, I started reading, and most importantly, I returned to my social life. My friends, Mateo and Pablo, welcomed me with open arms. I told them what had happened, and they, instead of judging me, supported me. "You know, Daniel, we always knew something was not right with her, but your love for her was so great that we did not want to hurt you. But we are happy that you are okay, that you are free. Mateo told me with a sincerity that moved me. Yes, old man. And now it is time for you to have fun, to live your life, added Pablo with his joking tone. And that is what I did. I started going out with them to bars, to nightclubs, to meet new people. At first, I was not looking for anything serious. I just wanted to enjoy my freedom, my single life, with no strings attached. I met several women with whom I had relationships without commitment. It was a way to make up for lost time, to feel alive again. Over time, my heart began to heal. The pain of betrayal faded, and in its place, happiness was born, the happiness of being free, of being the master of my own destiny. And in the midst of all this, one night in a bar I met Anna. She was a beautiful, intelligent woman, with a sense of humor that I loved, and, most importantly, she was independent. She did not need me to save her. She did not need a man to take care of her. She just needed someone to accompany her. Our relationship started slowly. We got to know each other, we fell in love, and after a while, we got married again. With Anna, my life was not a story of a savior and a victim. It was a story of love, of respect, of equality. And in that marriage, I found true happiness. One day, while I was walking down the street, I saw Clara. She was walking alone, with a pale and sad face. I realized that her manipulation had not worked and that Leo, the man for whom she had risked everything, had left her alone. I saw her enter a small apartment, an apartment that felt as lonely as she did. I looked at myself in a shop window and realized how far I had come, how happy I was. And for the first time in my life, I did not feel rage or pain. I only felt a deep relief. The story of Clara and Leo became a lesson for me, a life lesson that taught me that love is not based on sacrifice or manipulation, but on trust, respect, and equality. And that, despite adversity, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel.